What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Friday, February 10th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this 11-game NBA slate tonight. Sorry I haven't been here the past few days. Had some trouble at the airport, got stuck traveling. Kind of a nightmare, but it's all done now, and I am back. So, at the point guard position, one of the studs that I like on the slate is Ja Morant from the Memphis Grizzlies, playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have the 10th worst defense overall. They give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing point guards, and Ja Morant has averaged 49.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 35% usage rate. He's projected at 47.4 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can score 54 fantasy points or more in this matchup, get you 5 times value or more. He's 10,600 DraftKings salary, 400 less on FanDuel, and Ja Morant has scored 55 and 49 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 35 and 30 minutes. And Ja Morant, he's got good player versus team history here. He scored 59, 41, 57, 47, and 65 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Timberwolves. So I like Ja Morant here versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Okay, another point guard that I like. This is a good value play. Take a look at Colin Sexton from the Utah Jazz, playing the Toronto Raptors, who have a good defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Colin Sexton has averaged 22.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He's projected at 22.1 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.5 times value. Only 4,000 DraftKings salary. He's 1,200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 232.5 points scored in this game. Colin Sexton has scored 38, 11, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 31, 25, and 20 minutes. So with Mike Conley being traded from the Utah Jazz, Colin Sexton is going to step up and have a bigger role. So his price still really low. Definitely priced too low on this slate. If he's going to play 30 plus minutes, he should be able to crush value here tonight. And he scored 21 and 20 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Raptors. So I like Colin Sexton here versus the Toronto Raptors. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And then we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Buddy Hield from the Indiana Pacers, playing the Phoenix Suns, who have a good defense overall, middle of the pack defending opposing shooting guards. Buddy Hield has averaged 32.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. He's projected at 32.2 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5 times value. He's 6,500 DraftKings salary, 200 more on FanDuel, and Buddy Hield has scored 47, 27, and 49 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 29, and 36 minutes. So, Buddy Hield is projected. I already said his projection. Sorry, guys. A little slow here. Trying to catch up. Been out of the game for the past 3 days. So, Buddy Hield has scored 40, 27, 43, 36, and 27 fantasy points in the last 5 games. And I think he's a good play here tonight. He's got some pretty good upside, 40 plus fantasy point upside. So I like Buddy Hield here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Norman Powell from the LA Clippers playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing small forwards. Norman Powell has averaged 25.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 26 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. Now, he's projected at 25.9 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he could score 30 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's 5,700 DraftKings salary, 900 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 226.5 points scored in this game. And Norman Powell has scored 40, 25, and 39 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the Bucks. And in his last 3 games in general, playing 27, 30, and 35 minutes. And he's got a good track record here versus the Bucks. Scored 31, 37, 25, and 44 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Bucks. So I like Norman Powell here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Another player who looks underpriced here. You just never know what you're going to get. He's inconsistent. But Tobias Harris at only 5,500 DraftKings salary, 800 more on FanDuel, averaging 30.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game. He's projected at 30.7 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.6 times value. He's 5,500 DraftKings salary, 800 more on FanDuel. He scored 13, 35, and 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 38, and 26 minutes. And the question is, are you going to get that 15-point game or that 30-plus fantasy point game? He scored 35, 19, 47, 28, and 23 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Knicks. So I think he's got a good chance here to crush value if he scores 30 fantasy points or more. So I like Tobias Harris here versus the New York Knicks.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like, here's a value play. Take a look at Chris Boucher from the Toronto Raptors playing the Utah Jazz, who have the 9th worst defense overall. Been good versus a power forwards, but Chris Boucher has averaged 21.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 21 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. Now, he's projected at 20.3 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 25 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's 4,600 DraftKings salary, 1,000 more on FanDuel, so I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 232.5 points scored in this game, and Chris Boucher has scored 47, 34, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 27, and 22 minutes. He scored 23, 31, 25, and 17 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Jazz. But he's got some big upside. He's playing more minutes, playing a lot more minutes than his season average the past 3 games. So I think he's got a great shot to crush value. So I like Chris Boucher here versus the Utah Jazz. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Jalen Duren from the Detroit Pistons playing the San Antonio Spurs, who have the absolute worst defense overall, give up the second most fantasy points to opposing centers. Jalen Duren has averaged 23.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 25 minutes per game with a 13% usage rate. He's projected at 23.4 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can score 25 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's 5,000 DraftKings salary, 700 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 235.5 points scored in this game, and Jalen Duren scored 34, 24, and 14 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He played 27 minutes in each of those games. It's a fantastic matchup. He scored 26 fantasy points in his last game versus the Spurs. So I like Jalen Duren here versus the San Antonio Spurs.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.